Da 들인데 잘람 güne sesi nangen게 아는 밥에 긴둥이데 숨바도 주마나 봤어다. 아는 들인데
Today, I would like to
대만의
greet
사람들이
all
다
of
공감하는
the
공감하니
members of the Noble Sangha who are listening over the internet,
다들
as well as
초등학생
all of the
주다는
faithful
세번
laymen and
주소록이
women.
니몰래야
Now, last week,
오늘
on the
제대로지
10th and the
공주시야
13th,
되리냐다
there were supposed to be
나는
teachings.
바람
However,
미세기 내가로는데 표현세 진짜
there was
인기행이
a particular
시대 맞에 감에 주로
thing I
인주사네
had to do, and there
다들 얘기
was
넘버
no
솔로야
choice
두다
but
말이야
to
진짜 중요한 일이다
postpone the
나 동안
teachings. And
그렇다
so, if that caused you any
뭐 당시
inconvenience,
아이
I would first like to
다들인 통해
apologize for it.
지지세이나 가서
Now, my original plan
저기
for
지수
today is that
몰래야
in our last
시다오다
classes, we've
숨
been
이어도
discussing the split into the 18
찍내는데
schools according to
내셔서
three different
찍이 파괴
traditions.
위원회
The first is the
시행하지
Theravada,
찍이
the
파괴
second is the
시행하지
Sarvastivada explanation, the
시다오다
third is the
숨
Mahasanga version.
코네 마슈레
So we primarily described it in terms of these
다이네 더
three
디고
main
원효도
explanations.
인주사네
But it's a kind of
대사는
complicated.
세버지 중매버로 된대지기
And I had this feeling that maybe it didn't
소고는지
come out so
사수다
clearly.
된대 인주사네
So I had doubt that
말랑기
this is how
비리
it was.
상고지
So,
쇠지 아니
so
뒤에
I thought that I
포함하나
should make like
제시에
a new set
주시구나
of
다
diagrams for you and
세워서를
give you an
상고지
explanation of them. Then it
된대지기
would become really clear.
좋아 유연해야 다 디고
So I
디
hope to do that,
디스 요르
but
사바 인주사네
it's a very complicated topic.
디고드다 제마 슈규체
So we'll talk
드링예매야
about that later. So first of all,
오네
today,
딱급 디두 데베 튜르블이야 데바
I would like to
소수기
speak about the
오늘 깨라지에는 녀바지에는
masters of the
이제
different
가르
schools,
가르
the well-known
중요하다
famous masters of the
우주도안에
different schools from
선제링예는
that
되는
time of
소리에서
Nikaya Buddhism. And so that's what I'd like to speak about with you first today.
다 대야 당부
Now, first of all,
음, 다 데베기 로벨 시에베qab려야 다 데바
when we talk
데베나
about
베세
the
안디 간다 롱종사
masters
콜이야
of the
중대버지
Nikaya
파괴
Buddhism,
중대버지
so these are
차례야
now
다
this period of
롱종사
Nikaya Buddhism
주기야
lasted for 1,000 years.
데바 민족아 이제 파괴 중배 최래야
And among
디
all of the different schools that
데베기 케바
developed during those 1,000 years,
대화소스들이야 안지 케바 첨부들 참여가 중요하네.
there are an innumerable number
나상
of
뜻이
great
두 말을
scholars
주에 두고 말하는
within
만나시기
schools. Now,
아니
we can't
미사
discuss them all,
그냥 대제 대화소
and
상매기지
and
케바 가르가르 해봤던데
we are not able to,
미사
and even
상업회
that there
디자해요 말해.
aren't even any
대제인도 다
documents that
시험을야
describe who all of these
다
clearly
대화
who
모두
all of
제배
these scholars
남이
are. So, among
탐제위원회
all
대화
of these
뇌대인도
different
대화를 줘.
scholars, I'd
다
like to
대제
speak
대화
about some of the
가시지.
scholars from the Sarvastivada and
잡수인 것이
from
신기다.
the
원래 가르가르
State of
대화
Theravada schools and the
소수수
natures of each of
잡수인데.
them. So, just to sort of give a
그러면 지금
representation of each of
가르가르
the different
가시지.
schools.
어쩔 수 있나 sometimes.
So, for that reason, I thought I
다
would like to
비나
give an
당부 다
introduction to a few of the
탐제위원회기
different.
대발이야. 그러면 가르가르 중요해 버리래.
And so, first, I'd like
다
to speak
탐제위원회기
about the
뭐래야?
great
응원배 대뉴
scholars of the Sarvastivada.
응원배 대뉴가 나눠내다
Now, within
게라치쇠지
the Sarvastivada, there is
그
the
감정이
scriptures of the
좋다.
Abhidharma, and the most
응원배
famous
대뉴수요.
in the
다디
Abhidharma are the
자바하게야
seven treatises
인자하게야
of the
소배지
Abhidharma.
유지를
They're most
예마부지
famous in Tibet, and in the Chinese, they're also well known. They're called the One
다들
Main and the
유지를 예마주세야
six
나지
branches.
응원배
So we
대뉴세나
call them the
안다래야
seven Abhidharma
탐제위원회로
treatises, or the
응원배기
One Main and six
대뉴
secondary treatises. In any case,
응원배
in the Sarvastivada
슈기되기
Abhidharma,
다들 느지기다 개박하실 그래 다들 소
there were
탐제위원회야 개
several
소배
scholars
개박
who upheld this
세바라든지
tradition
개박 피도
of
중요하지
Abhidharma. So
다디
there are these very
나로네
authentic scholars and
당기
very excellent scholars.
아니
The first of these
류지의 연락주 시에 나로네
is if we
류지
talk about the
된진쟁기
one main and six
나지 탐제위원회도
secondary, we've
응원배
talked about
대녀가
the
나로는데
author of the
어쩌지
main transcript
대녀 짜스슈기
treatise,
소
or
류디비기 된진쟁게데
the author of the
소수상이나
most
아니
important of the
까다야네
Sarvastivada
보살사리
tradition.
까다야네 보살이 딱 까다야니 부사디
is Katyayanaputra.
다당아라주기
Now,
상기
Katyayanaputra
좀
is
된데기 호랑기 응월로 그 첼리아야 까다야니 부첨보사죠
sometimes it's said
어디 대다 다다 급들이 유엔에기
a
공배
Bhagavan
되네
Buddha.
다다 뭐 이실은 주고사다
And
자외
he's the author of a text of the
자외 그 슝제
main
뭐
text of
이실은
the
주고사기
Abhidharma.
까다야니 부사디
This is
아이구자
and so
지 있어 말해
the author of the Jnana
다대양
of the
유엔에기
the main text of the Abhidharma, the
뭐 이실은 주고 쟁행이
entering wisdom or
까다야니
Jnanaprasthana
부사디
is said to be
그리스도보다
Katyayana
라이나
Putra. And so we think that is sometimes it's said that's the disciple of the Buddha, but it's probably not. Actually, he was probably born in northwestern India in a Brahmin family. Now, the time that he appeared, the time when the Sarvastivada or the Great Exposition School when their tenets were being determined. And so the time that this happened was like was a little bit after the time when the Sarvastivada split from the Sthaviravada school. So after the Sarvastivada split from the Sthaviravada, then the Katyayani Putra lived at that time. And so the time that he appeared was just a little bit after the split of the Sarvastivada from the Sthaviravada. But as far as the actual dates when he lived, there are actually many different accounts from different scholars. Now, according to the wheel distinguishing the differences between the scriptural traditions, the time when the Sarvastivada split from the Sthaviravada was just over 200 years after the Buddha's parinirvana. This is what explains, and so that's basically the beginning of the 3rd century after the parinirvana, right? And so, in that case, so he probably lived in like the mid or the late 3rd century after the parinirvana, so probably somewhere around 150 BCE. Now, those are probably the time period where he lived. Also, there are also the great records of the Western regions by the great Chinese scholar Xuanzang, and he also says there that the author of the Janaprasthana, Katyayana Putra, lived in the 3rd century after the parinirvana. And also, there's a text of there are some notes on the Abhidharma or commentary on it, which says that he lived at the end of the 3rd century. So it's a slightly different account. In any case, there are discussions of the lineage from Katyayani Putra. Now, so there have been many different accounts of his Abhidharma lineage. There's no single one that is universally accepted. For example, the great Swedanistic scholar Ji Tsang wrote a text called The Meaning of the Secret Meaning of the Three Treatises. Now, the three treatises there mean in the root verses of the Middle Way, and a Chinese text and another 3rd text, and these 3 are the most important. And so he's talking about the important the secret points, the important points of these. And what he says in there is that as Upagupta transmitted to Purna, Purna predicted in Mechaka, and in Mechaka then transmitted to Katyayani Putra. And so this talks about the original source of the teachings. Now, this is what is said, but the dates of Purna and Mechaka are actually after Katyayani Putra's dates. And so this transmission, or this lineage of Katyayani Putra is not held to be credible. Now, Katyayani Putra was actually the author of many. If you ask about what works did he write and what was his influence, now, Noble Katyayani Putra was the author of the fundamental text of the Sarvastivada. And so this is the fundamental, the most important text of the Sarvastivada, the Jnanaprasthana, or entering wisdom. And so he's basically considered to be the founder of the Sarvastivada Abhidharma tradition. So the Jnanaprasthana is their fundamental text, and this was written by Katyayaniputra. And so therefore Katyayaniputra was like the founder of the actual Sarvastivada tradition. And so it's reasonable to call him that. And so for that reason, the Sarvastivada held him in extremely high esteem. Now this Jnanaprasthana that he wrote is the Jnanaprasthana is when we talk about that it didn't used to be in the Tibetan Kanjura Tenjur, but later, but there was translated into Tibetan. There was a Chinese scholar who went to Tibet, who learned Tibetan in the main monasteries. He studied the great texts, and so there's this great master named Fazun. In Tibetan, we call him Chirpa. So his name is Fazun. So he translated the Jnanaprasthana and the Great Exposition from Chinese into Tibetan. He translated them from Chinese into Tibetan. And so after he did this, then later they were published in books. And so now we can read the Jnanaprasthana, the Great Exposition, in Tibetan. Before that, they were not included within the Tibetan. Well, the Jnanaprasthana is, from one perspective, it's like a commentary on the Buddha's words. In another way, it's like a systematic organization of the meanings of the Buddhist scriptures, and that it made into a strong foundation for the Sarvastivada school. And so the solid foundation is established for the Sarvastivada school within this text, the Jnanaprasthana. So this text, the Jnanaprasthana, and the other six are all grouped together as what we can call as the 7 Abhidharma treatises, whereas in the Chinese term, the 1 body and 6 limbs, or the 1 main and 6 secondary treatises. And so these are the main Abhidharma treatises. And so these philosophical texts are like the main, are like the basis of the Sarvastivada Abhidharma tradition. Next, I would like to speak about, if we think about, when you talk about the 6 secondary treatises, that's excluding the 6 of the other, you think about who were the authors of the 6 secondary treatises. Well, the first of these is the Samgiti Parayaya, the exposition of the recitation. And so this has 12 fascicles in the Chinese translation. And in the Chinese tradition, it's said to be written by Shariputra. However, the Indian sources and Tibetan schools, and one when they say it is written by Mahakashtila. Now, this is probably only extant in Chinese, and the translator was the great Tang master Xuanzang. Now, the second is the Abhidharma Dhammaskanda, or the aggregate of dharmas. And this text has 12 fascicles in Chinese. According to the Chinese accounts, it was written by Maudgalyayana. But in another account by Indian and Tibetan scholars, it's said to be written by Shariputra. So this is a different account. And this was also translated into Chinese by Tang Xuanzang. Now, the third is the Abhidhamma Pratyaptipada Sutra, the treatise on designation. And this was written by Katyayaniputra. Now, again, to another Tibetan account, this is written by Maudgalyayana. And so it's translated in the Sungha by the master Chusung into Chinese. And there is also translation of this into Tibetan now. Now, the fourth is the Abhidhamma Vijnanakaya, or the collection of consciousness, which has 16 fascicles, and it was written by someone named Deva Sharman. And this is something that both the Chinese and Tibetan sources agree who the author was. And this was also translated into Chinese by the master Xuanzang. Now, the fifth is the Abhidhamma Prakaranapada, or the Abhidharma Treatise. It's in 18 fascicles. So it's 18 fascicles. And the author of this was Vasumitra. And the Chinese and Tibetan sources agreed on the author. This was also translated into Chinese by Xuanzang. And the sixth was the Abhidhamma Dhatukaya, or the collection of consciousnesses. And this also was by the noble Vasumitra, by Acharya Vasumitra. Now, as far as author, another account of its author from the Indian and Tibetan scholars is written by Purana. And this is also translated into Chinese by Master Xuanzang. Now, after this, later, there was the great exposition of the Abhidharma. So 500 arhats compiled many different Abhidharma texts into the great exposition, which had 200 fascicles. And this was also translated by the Chinese master Xuanzang into Chinese. So this great exposition of the Abhidharma is like a massive text that contains the entire essence of the Sarvastivada school. It's like the entire Sarvastivada scholastic tradition. And so all of these are the 7 treatises of the Abhidharma. So in full, they're in Chinese. And among that, 95% of these were translated by Tang Xuanzang. Most of it was translated by Tang Xuanzang. Now, in Tibet, as I said before, only a few of them are translated, not all of them. But later, as I mentioned before, the Jnanaprasthana and the Great Exposition were translated, and are extant now. Now, some contemporary researchers say that among the authors of the 7 treatises, it talks about Shariputra, Madhgalyan, and all of them, right? Now, in our traditional account is that we say that the Shariputra and Madhgalyana are the actual disciples of the Buddha, so like the 2 greatest disciples, the greatest pair, with Shariputra and Madhgalyana. Now, but the scholars say that it's like as either their names were borrowed or that they represent being part of a lineage that descended from them. And so it's saying that it's written in the tradition of Shariputra, written in the tradition of Madhgalyana, but it wasn't that it's impossible that they could have been written by the Buddha's direct disciples, Shariputra and Madhgalyana. Next. So first we have the 7 treatises of the Abhidharma. And these are these. And then there was the Great Exposition of the Mahavibhasha. And so this is the longest text with 200 fascicles. And so this text it contains all of the main points of the Sarvastivada treatises, this massive text, right? Now, at the time that the Great Exposition was being compiled, there were important Sarvastivadins. There was Dharmatrata and other masters, 5 who gathered and who compiled this, and included the 4. There were Buddhaghosa, Buddhadeva Ghosha, Dharmatrata, and Vasumitra. And so, after this, I'd like to speak about the 4 Great Exposition school masters, or the 4 Sarvastivada school masters. And who are these 4 masters? These are Dharmatrata, there is Vasumitra, Buddhadeva, and Vasumitra. And what we need to understand here is that when we talk about the The great exposition and the Sarvastivada, are they synonyms? Later, they became like synonyms. But in terms, if you think about it in terms of the development, so if the first the Sarvastivada appeared, and then later the Great Exposition School appeared. This is how it appeared. Now, the reason we say this is that the Sarvastivada was the name of the initial name of the school. It's you've got the Sarvastivada, Stavitavada. That's the Sarvastivada. Now the term Great Exposition appeared, or Vaibhashika. The reason why it's called that is because there's the text, the Great Exposition, that I mentioned before. And so they teach this text, and they consider it important, they consider it valid, and so for that reason they were called the Great Exposition School. And so for that reason, originally when there were Sarvastivadis initially appeared, there was no Great Exposition. That appeared later. So at the beginning, there was the 7 texts of the Abhidharma appeared, over time, and then it's during the third council that the Great Exposition of the Abhidharma was compiled. And so at that third council, they compiled the Great Exposition, and then when they studied that Great Exposition, and so then after that, they were called the Great Exposition, or Vaibhashika School. And so in terms of the appearances, that there's an order of earlier and later, but later, when you're talking about the Great Exposition or Sarvastivada, it became like synonymous. So next, I'd like to give an introduction to these 4 masters of the school. Now, the first of these is the Venerable Dhammatrata. So it's a Dhammatrata. So the first is Venerable Dhammatrata. So if you think about his life and his influence, so basically among the Buddhist scriptures, there are actually 4 famous individuals named Dhammatrata. So that's not certain that all of them were the Dhammatrata, who is the great exposition master. So we need to distinguish them. So if we know, as far as what the actual life of the Dhammatrata we're discussing here, we can't really definitively say what it was. However, all of the Sarvastivada texts, including the wheel distinguishing the differences between scriptural traditions, speak highly of him as the Venerable Dhammatrata, or the Noble Dhammatrata. So when they call him by name, they show great respect, and they're very give him an honorific position. Sometimes they call him just by the name Venerable. Instead of saying Dhammatrata, they just use the word Venerable. And so there's also a tradition of just calling him by that name. And so for that reason, within the Sarvastivada school, he had like a particular position and was extremely influential. And we can tell this from the way that he was called, the honorifics by which he was called. Now, there's a student of Shunsan Guwang who wrote the notes on the luminous treasury, and how they describe him as his Sanskrit name was Dhammatrata, and he lived 300 years after the parinirvana. So this is him. And so if we look at that, then his dates are not long after Katyayana Putra, the author of the Ganaprasthana, appeared. So he lived not long after Katyayana Putra lived. Now, according to Tanshen Sangh, he was born in Gandhara. So there's a region called Gandhara. Likewise, in all the texts of the Sarvastivada, his own explanations and positions are cited repeatedly. They're recited up all the time, but whether they're Dhammatrata, how he actually was this? Actually, he was actually an upholder of the sutras. He wasn't an upholder of the Abhidharma, he was an upholder of the sutras. And so he was also, for that reason, called a Darshtantaka, or as a Darshtantaka or an analogist. And so because he was a Darshtantaka or an upholder of the sutras, he criticized the Sarvastivada Abhidharma tradition. He didn't emphasize the Abhidharma tradition, he upheld the sutras. And he also criticized the Abhidharma masters. Now later, the Chinese modern master Yinshun wrote, during the time of the Venerable Dhammatrata, the Abhidharma tradition was flourishing and developing. However, but the Venerable Dhammatrata himself upheld the earlier positions as a Sarvastivada. That means that he primarily upheld the sutras. And so for that reason, he took he had the old tradition. His old tradition was upholding the tradition of the sutras, but at that time, after Venerable Dhammatrata appeared, and later became this very strong tradition of considering the Abhidharma to be the main thing, and so for that reason, he criticized the people who held the Abhidharma treatises to be the most important. And so for that reason, he himself was, of course, he was a Sarvastivada master. That's the school that he was in. However, when you think about the positions he took or the views that he held, he was someone who considered the sutras to be most important. And so for that reason, the Sautrantikas, the sutra school, consider him to be like a precursor to their school. Not only that, Dhammatrata also had some views close to the Mahayana of the Bodhisattvas. Or a different way of looking at the Bodhisattvas. And this is also clear within his text, and so for that reason, from ancient times in China, he was called Bodhisattva. They'd say, they would call him by them the Bodhisattva Dhammatrata. The reason for this is that he was not upholding the teachings of the Abhidharma as much as following like a precursor of the Mahayana. Now, as far as which of his texts are there, his own texts are actually no longer extant. The only one of his that is extant is his compilation of the Dharmapada, which is like the Udana Varga, which is translated into Tibetan. So that's what it is. Now that's something that he wrote. That's something that he compiled. Now the Dharmapada is taking a lot of the 4-line or 6-line verses from the sutras, and then he compiled them all according to their different topics and put them into different chapters according to their topics. Now, of course, every school had already had its own Dharmapada. Each of the different schools has its own Dharmapada. They're all present from before. It's like something that Dhammatrata recompiled it. It's not something that he wrote himself, like a new composition by himself. And so for that reason, the only thing that we can read now is his compilation of the Dharmapada, or the Udana Varga. Other than that, his own texts are no longer extant. Now, the Nipa is the Venerable Vasamitra. Now, Vasamitra is If we would speak about his life and his influence, the Venerable Vasamitra, so his Sanskrit name is Vasamitra, but a name of his names in the Chinese is the friend of the gods, Tianyu, or friend of the gods. So Devamitra. So in Sanskrit, this is Devamitra. So it's another translation of his name. In the Chinese Buddhist histories, he is often called there are also many other Scots who call it Vasamitra. There are many, in the Chinese text, there are many people who have the same names. So this gives us a lot of difficulties. When we talk about the Zhongbepa, like there's the elder and the younger. And there's Dushap and Dushban, then you stuck the Ripikuchok, there's the two of them. And the reason for that is because there are so many who have the same names. Sometimes you don't know which one you're talking about. You can only say the major and minor, otherwise there's no way to know. So there are, in Chinese Buddhist history, there are many masters who called these. So when you talk about the Vasamitra as one of the four venerables of the Great Exposition School, he was born in the place called Malwa. Now, according to Taranada's in the history of Buddhism in India, he was born in the place called Maru in the west. Now, the time when he lived was probably sometime between the 2nd century BC to the 1st century BC, sometime in that era. And there was a householder Jati in the region of Tukhara who was very rich and who and who paid him great respect. And later, he went to the city of Pushalakavati, lived there, and spread the Dharma, taught the Dharma there. So basically, he became an eminent Sarvastivada from the western regions. So he was a western Sarvastivada master. Now, according to Tang Xuanzang's great records of the western regions, so during the time of King Kanishka, there was the third council that was held then, right? During that third council, Vasamitra was an important elder at that time, and so for that reason, he was brought to Kashmir. He went to Kashmir, and he participated in the compilation of the Great Exposition along with the master Parshva. And so this is what is written in Xuanzang's great records of the Western region. So he participated in the compilation, and not only that. So this is a compilation of the Great Exposition. So that's the place where it's compiled, right? So while they're compiling it, he was there. He was participating, right? Likewise, he was such an important personage of the time. At the time of the Third Council, or to the time of the compilation of the Great Exposition, he was that person. He was a very significant person of that time. So for that reason, everyone considered him to be so important. And so at that time, the people would ask him questions about everything, and they'd said that all of the doubts there were decided by him, by asking him. But what the scholars of these days say is that actually the dates of Vasamitra was actually a bit earlier than that. So it's a little bit before the Third Council and the compilation of the Great Exposition. So probably impossible that he could have participated in the Third Council and the compilation of the Great Exposition. Now, Venerable Vasamitra himself, is a little bit different than Venerable Dhammatratta. He actually is a holder of a pure Sarvastivada view. And particularly what we mean by pure Sarvastivada view, that means like to accept the Jnana Prasthana, the main text of the Abhidharma. The most important Abhidharma text of the Sarvastivada is the Jnana Prasthana, so he's like a pure follower of that. Now, the longest commentary on the Jnana is the Great Exposition. And so that Great Exposition is like a commentary in actuality. It's a commentary on the Jnana. It's the longest commentary on that. And so within the Great Exposition, that's the longest commentary on the Jnana, there are a lot of citations of Vasamitra. Because so many of his words are cited there, you could say that he's like an authoritative upholder of the Sarvastivada, the Great Exposition, the Abhidharma tradition. So I say that he was like the authority on this. Now, the Great Exposition itself does cite a lot of words by all of the four great scholars, but of the four great masters of the Sarvastivada. But among them, it's Vasamitra who's shown the highest esteem and the greatest respect. Now, another thing that we need to understand is that we've talked about the place where the Great Exposition was compiled was in the region of Kashmir. That's where it was compiled. It was compiled in Kashmir. Now, the Sarvastivadis or the Great Expositions in that school were called the Eastern Sarvastivadis. Vasamitra was born in Gandhara. So he was born in Gandhara, so he was considered a Western Sarvastivada. But actually, the Kashmiri Sarvastivada is actually considered more highly than those in the West did, because they cited so many of his works in there. And what this shows is that it's because his excellence of his philosophical thought, because his so for that reason, even the Kashmiri Great Exposition considered him the great thought. Now, the particular features of his writings is that they're really good, systematic. The orders, they're concise and easy to understand, and the characteristics they give are really clear. So these are the different characteristics of his work. So for that reason, whether you're an Eastern or a Western Sarvastivada, he was very influential. Now, another thing we need to know is that this Venerable Vasamitra, like the Dhammatratta, whom we explained before, like as I mentioned how Dhammatratta was called Bodhisattva, Vasamitra as well was also in the ancient Chinese text. He's also called Bodhisattva. The reason for that, there are said to be stories explaining it. There's stories or histories about this, and what the stories are it's described in Tangshan Sanskrit records of the Western regions. The Venerable Vasamitra himself was really well learned in the three Pitakas and the 5 sciences and areas of knowledge. So for that reason, and so all the compilers of the Great Exposition in Kashmir wanted him to participate in the compilation. But when he came to participate, they said, you haven't yet achieved the afflictions, that he was not an arhat, so they actually didn't allow him. They said, you aren't allowed to. We all have only arhats here. You can't here. We can't have people who haven't eliminated all the afflictions. And so they expelled him. So in actuality, Venerable Vasamitra himself hadn't achieved arhathood, but he had completed all the accumulations to achieve arhathood. And if he wanted to be a manifested of arhathood, he could at any moment. but when he was just about to achieve it, then there were gods the gods said to him, you're going to awaken to Buddhahood after the Buddha Maitreya. So why are you going to that? If you wait, forget about the achieving Arishaship. After the Buddha Maitreya, you're going to achieve the result of Buddhahood. So they made a prediction. Likewise, they said, why you are like the leader of the three realms and refuge for all four places of birth. Why would you want to achieve a result of the Vandevishika? And so, like, the gods made this prophecy or this prediction, or they made this request. And so for that reason, he forgot about achieving the level of Arahant. So this is the story, and from what we see from the story is that says that the reason why it's called the Bodhisattva Vasamitra is because of this story. So that's why it was called the Bodhisattva. So next, I'd like to speak about the works of Vasamitra. So if you ask what are they? So Vasamitra, the one that we have that is still extant, as I mentioned before, is the Abhidharma Prakarana and the treatise of the Abhidharma and the Abhidharma Dhatukaya, the collection of the dhatus. And so it's a little bit different in the Chinese and Tibetan traditions, but in the Chinese it said that he wrote both the Prakarana and the Dhatukaya. Now, also there's the wheel distinguishing the differences between the scriptural traditions. Now, traditionally, this is attributed to Master Vasamitra. However, there are some contemporary Castros scholars who doubt whether it's actually Vasamitra who wrote the wheel distinguishing the differences between scriptural traditions. But traditionally, and particularly in terms of the names, the words of the Chinese masters, there are three main texts by him. There's the Abhidharma Prakarana, the Abhidharma Dhatukaya, as well as the wheel distinguishing the differences between the scriptural traditions. Now, in our Tibetan, the two Abhidharma texts are not in Tibetan, but the wheel distinguishing the difference between scriptural traditions is. Now, next we have come to the third of the four great exposition masters, the Venerable Buddhadeva. Now, Buddhadeva, so in Sanskrit his name is Buddhadeva, or the Buddha God. So Buddhadeva himself, if we talk about his life first, it's really not at all clear. But one of his things is that he was it's said that he participated in the compilation of the Great Exhibition, but there's no other no text. But that story does not have a good source. There's no reliable source that is actually him who participated. Now, if you ask when did he live, it's if you think, if we talk about either BCE or either 10, somewhere between 10 years before BC, before the Common Era, or 10 of this Common Era. Now, in 1869, in the city of Mathura in northern India, in that area, there was a pillar that had a lion capital. So there's a pillar found there. And what is written on that is that Acharya Buddhadeva and the bhikshus of the Sarvastivada. That was inscribed on that. So many scholars say they ask about when did this pillar appear? It was probably written sometime between 10 years before the Common Era to 10 years into the Common Era. So sometime in that time. And it says, when it says Acharya Buddhadeva in the inscription, and it's said to be the Buddhadeva who we are describing. It's possible it was the Buddhadeva who was considered one of the four masters of the Sarvastivada school. Now, in terms of his philosophy, the positions he held, Buddhadeva and also the Venerable Dhammachatur we discussed before were similar because they were Sarvastivadas, and within the Sarvastivada, they were not upholders of the Abhidharma, but upholders of the sutras. They considered the sutras, so they're also called the Darshtantikas. We'll speak about, I'll describe the Darshtantikas later. Now, in the Darshtantaka, or tradition of the upholders, they primarily held the sutras to be the most important. They considered the sutras to be the most important. They didn't consider the Abhidharma to be all that important. The Abhidharma is basically later commentaries on the intent of the words of the Buddha. And these Abhidharmas, the reason why they didn't like these Abhidharma teachers that that were commentaries on this is because the masters who wrote the Abhidharma made a really complicated philosophy about with many different subtle distinctions of complicated characteristics and so forth. It's like the original form of like the Buddha's words, and sort of very easily and clearly presented. That's what they liked. Now, within his own views and philosophy, is that what he said is that the form is just the elements and that mental factors are just mind. And so it means that he did not expect any form separate from the elements, right? We talk about there being a form that's separate with the elements, but he did not accept that form could be dealt from the elements. So likewise, we talk about mind and mental factors, and so he said that he didn't accept that there was some mind that was separate from mental factors. And so this is his own particular view. And so that's his own particular view. So next is the last of these. Among the four masters, the fourth of them is the Venerable Gosha. Now, Gosha, think about his life. He was born in northern India in a region called Tukhara. It's in this little place called Tukhara. Now, in Tibetan, it's called Togar. So he was born in the region of Tukhara. And so his birthplace was in northern India, in Tukhara. It probably is, right? Now, according to Taranata's History of Buddhism in India, after the Third Council, during the Third Council, the sponsor was King Kanishka. After the Third Council, then King Kanishka also passed away. And then after that, in the region, there was a place in the north called Aspamaranta. And this is very close to the region of Tukhara in the north. And there was a rich householder whose name was Zati. He was extremely rich. And he invited both the great exposition masters, Venerable Vasamitra from Maro in the west, and as well as Venerable Gosha. He invited Vasamitra from Marua and Tukhara from Gosha from Tukhara, and he spent 12 years making offerings to 300,000 bhikshus. So he was a great sponsor. This is a very well-known story in old days. And because he was such a great donor, a sponsor, they sponsored Zati. It was from the land called Asparamanta. Asmaparanta. Speaking of an extremely wealthy householder who lived there. And he invited both Vasamitra and Venerable Gosha, and along with them 300,000 bhikshus, and he spent 12 years making offerings to them. At that time, according to Taranata's history, Vasamitra and Venerable Gosha were contemporaries. Now, another story says that he was present during the compilation of the Great Exposition. So it said that Venerable Gosha was present during the compilation of the Great Exposition. Now, the most well-known story related to Venerable Gosha was like their tears. There's a story of curing someone's eyes with tears. Now, there are several different ways of explaining this, but the way it's given in Tongshun Sanskrit records of the Western regions is that in Magadha, right? And there's a monastery near the Bodhi tree in Magadha. And King Ashoka had his son there, the prince Kunala. So the prince is Ashoka's son. So Kunala, he lost both of his eyes. It was a very difficult situation. And so King Ashoka brought his child and brought him to the Arhat Kashuk and said, please cure my son. And so at that time, when he was requested, then Venerable Gosha said was at that time, so invite everyone to come listen to the Dharma. Bring them all to come invite them. But when they come to that, they differently than other times. That each of them should carry a bowl. He said. And so the king made the announcement, so then everyone came. The king said, come to listen to the Dharma, so everyone came carrying a bowl. And so at the very end, everyone came to listen to the Dharma. When they came to listen to the Dharma at that time, this Venerable Gosha, he spoke about the 12 links of interdependence. And when he spoke about the 12 links of interdependence, then everyone was really moved. They're so moved that they all started crying. They shed tears. And as they shed the tears, then Gosha said that everyone collected the tourists in each of this, and they all gathered the tears. And normally after the shed tears, then normally it just dries up. But he said that instead he said to gather them all. They gathered them and then put them all together in a golden vessel. They poured it on a golden vessel, and then Venerable Gosha made an aspiration. And after that aspiration, he took the tears in the golden vessel, and he washed the eyes of King Ashoka's son, the Prince Kunala. And then after that, then the prince's eyes with tears, the prince's eyes were restored to what they had been before. He was able to see just as he had before. So that's a story about him. So this is the most famous story about the Venerable Gosha. Likewise, the Chinese master Yinxun, the modern master Yinxun, what he says is that according to Taranatha's History of Buddhism in India, as I said before, it says that Gosha and Vasamitra are held to be contemporaries. However, he says, if you look at the wheel distinguishing the differences between the scriptural traditions, there are citations from Vasamitra quoted Gosha's citations and Desarvana's of Abhidharma collection, which means that Gosha must have been a little bit later than Vasamitra. Otherwise, he would not have been able to do them. Now, they could have been in the same period, because if it's the same period, you can't quote someone from the same period. But in that case, what Yinxun says that basically Gosha must have been a little bit later than Vasamitra. After that, so that's an introduction to the four masters of the Sarvastivada school. So next what I'd like to speak about are the scholars, a few of the scholars of the Vatsiputriya and Sanatiya schools. Now, the Vatsiputriya school was a large school that split off from the Sthaviravada. It wasn't a minor school, it was a major school. And this school is different than the other schools, and the way they're indifferent is that they assert that there's an ineffable self. Generally, all of the Buddhist schools assert selflessnesses, but the Vatsaputriya school asserts that there is a self, an ineffable self. It's not a self that's neither different from nor the same as the aggregates. They assert that sort of a self. And so for that reason, they were like a particular view. So they're different than all the other schools of Buddhism. And the Samatya was a sub-school that split off from the Vatsiputra school. It's like a sub-school of the Vatsiputra. And at one time in ancient India, it became extremely widespread. Tang Xuanzang reports that when he traveled to India, the Samitya school was very widespread. Now, when you talk about who are the great masters of the Vatsiputriya, the first of them is Vatsiputra. Now, Vatsiputra is the actual founder of the Vatsiputriya school, the person who started the Vatsiputriya school. And the time that he appeared was probably in the 3rd century BCE, somewhere around that. Now, the reason why it's called Vatsiputra, there are two different accounts for this. The first is that there was an ancient sage as he was born in the family lineage of an ancient sage. And the second account is that the place where the school developed was one of the 6 great regions we know of in ancient India, right? And one of them is called the Vatsa. So one of these is from the region of Vatsa, and so for that reason he was called the Vatsiputra, the student, the son of Vatsi. And so there are these different reasons. So now I think I mentioned the other day about the old day. In the old day, there was a Indian sage who lived in India, and one day he felt very strong desire. He felt great desire, and that there's basically no way that he could handle it. He couldn't suppress it. He had nothing to do. He looked for someone, and he couldn't find any person. He did find a cow, and so he did his job with a cow, and so the lineage is born from that. The cow had a kid, had a child, and that child was named Vatsiputra. And so that's one explanation, and that's an Indian account. Now his influence was that he established the doctrine of an ineffable self, and this is different than all the other schools. Following this, there's the Samatya school. Now, what we have in relation to the Samatya schools, there are not that many scholars from the Samatya school, but there are a few Samatya school, and I thought I should introduce them. And so there's one called the Treatise of the Samatya school. Now, this is only in Chinese, it's not in Tibetan. But this text in Chinese, it has neither a colophon nor its translator's called. The colophon is what explains who wrote it, and the translator's colophon says who translated it. Neither of those is them, but contemporary researchers say that it may have been translated by the Master Paramartha. So there's the Master Paramartha who says that there are 9 collections of consciousness, and so this is only a hypothesis. But this text is actually very important. The reason why is because it is the only excellent text we have that teaches the entire Samitya doctrine. There's no other text. This is a very important text. And it systematically explains the Samatya positions on the individual, samsara, impermanence, the karmic cause and effect, and so forth. And so because it presents the entire Samatya view, it is an extremely important text. Another one of these, the 22 verses clarifying the Vinaya. The author of this was it says here is Sautrantika here, but it's probably Samatya. I need to change this. So it's not Sautrantika, it's a Samitiya, Master.
第兄弟这年的呢，噶说
Now, the author of this text,
这是噶啥？
the 22 verses clarifying the Vinaya,
蒙古这边个那边商业交不啥的，跟这不的是。
is the Samitiya master Buddhatrata,
中间的那边让他这边就是，
and the translator is Paramartha.
但第六南张蒙古点下边个蒙古这边兄
This
弟，
is a text, as a Samitiya text that teaches many different aspects of the Vinaya. After that, we have
我们几点出发啥的？我们几点出发啥的？
is the Abhidharma establishing the world.
印度啊。
Now, this also doesn't have any colophon. The translator is Paramartha. And this text teaches how Mount Mara and the four continents in this classes as sentient beings form, remain, and perish, and most scholars assert that it is a Samitiya text. And so that is the Samitiya school. And so there are probably many great scholars in the Samitiya school. However, there aren't any manuscripts of theirs that are extant anymore. But now in Chinese, there are just a few Samitiya texts. So after this, there's a southern transmission, or there's the Tamrapaniya school, or the Vajrabhata school of the southern tradition. So I'd like to speak. We have to speak about that. We also need to speak about Master Shipva and Ashwagosha and also the other masters of the time, Skandila from the time of the composition of that, and Vasubandhu, as well as Sangabhadra, as well as later authors of commentaries on the Treasury of Abhidharma. I think we'd like to speak about them, but I think maybe not today, so we will leave it here for today. So later we have the next Dharma session is when? I don't know the date. Our next session, right?
Oh, I don't know.
So the next session will be our last one, but we're going to have to change the time. But I will make an announcement later. So the teaching on the 20th will be our last session. There's no particular thing that we have to do, but if you probably might have something to say, so please prepare that for everything, and that will be the last session, and we'll leave it there. That's probably we'll have to stop there. So the 20th will be our last session, and we will also leave it here for today.